perhaps have some eyes in the helicopter on that car? Are you thinking we lost it?
Or did he pull over and get out of the car or something? We have not seen that vehicle get out of there. So it's not clear where exactly this car just went. That's the challenge, of course, for tracking mode when you're not right on it, is if there's, and you're only tracking it from the air, if there's something that blocks your view from the air, it makes it really hard to track. Yeah,
and of course, every gray-looking Hyundai-type car can look like the suspect vehicle. Not sure if there was more than one person in that vehicle. We've seen so many of the smash-and-grab type of robberies or the thefts in stores where a large number of people come in and steal things. But we're hearing just this one vehicle and the robbery at the Sunglass Hut in Lakewood.
Joining us on the phone right now is Dennis Zine, a former LAPD officer, a motorcycle officer, been involved in many pursuits himself, also former member of the LA City Council. Dennis, it appears that we've lost this person.
Well, this is not uncommon. They find a place to evade under a freeway, under a bridge, and leave the car and bail out. And there'll be a foot pursuit if they can locate, but it's a busy hour. It's been after 5 o'clock in the afternoon, congested area. So they're going to try and find the individual, look for the car. But that's not uncommon. We find as many times where they go under a freeway and they bail from the car, leave the car, and take off on foot. So the helicopter can't do much with that. The ground units will converge and see what they can do if they have a good description of the suspect. So sometimes we see this happen where they will find a place, a way to escape. That might be the case in this particular situation.
We also wonder how this may or may not impact it or not. We've seen under so many of our overpasses or underpasses the amount of trash and homeless people and other things that are under there. And you wonder if somebody may be able to, like, blend in with some of that. Or is this the car here? Have we found the car?
All right. Well, good. So he maybe temporarily waited under the tunnel, under the bridge, and he'll proceed back out, and the pursuit will continue. There will be multiple agencies now because it's LAPD's jurisdiction. Yeah, there he goes. So he's 60, 70-plus miles an hour on the surface street. Yeah. So he's obviously trying to get away. It looks like there's some damage to the right front of the vehicle also. He may have gotten involved in a collision along the way.
Well,
but what we see happen, go ahead.
Yeah, we saw that long line of police vehicles. So when we hear of the word tracking, they can track from the helicopter. They have eyes on the different streets around Southern California. What is the best way they can track a vehicle?
Well, what they'll do is they'll track from the air. The air unit will broadcast the description, the location that the vehicle is proceeding. The ground units will then, in that particular area, go in a radius to try and find out where they're going to stop. When the pursuit gets to the 70, 80 mile an hour on the surface street, oftentimes they terminate for public safety. Yeah. And in that particular case, the helicopter will continually follow, but the ground units have to pull back just because of public safety issues.
All right, so we're getting back on the freeway. We're now heading on the southbound 110 freeway. This robbery suspect wanted for holding up a Sunglass Hut in the Lakewood neighborhood is now on his or her way near downtown Los Angeles, driving at fast speeds, trying to weave through traffic, and now moving into the carpool lane at nearly 80 miles an hour.
And they'll continue with that. The ground units, the CHP in particular, will close in. They have a more aggressive pursuit policy than the local agencies. But as long as they have a chopper overhead and they don't have tunnels and bridges restricting the view, they'll be able to then focus on this individual and take him into custody, or her. Depends on where it ends up. Well, but this is going for quite a distance so far, and we see it continue. I don't see any police units or CHP units following.
We just saw a news van. I wonder if that was our news van that was just right next to this car. But this person's really flying right now, which is dangerous to be doing in the middle of rush hour. People don't see this person coming, and it may be more dangerous, Dennis, because there are not lights and sirens behind this person warning people that somebody is driving at this high of a speed.
Exactly, and the siren, the red lights, that's used to warn the people, caution the people. But on a freeway at that speed, 93, 94, 95 miles an hour, that sound is really not going to be heard by the motorists if that speed is continuing.
Yeah.
When you're going 90 miles an hour on a freeway and the units are close behind, vehicles in the immediate vicinity, other vehicles won't hear anything. Hopefully they'll be able to see the lights and pull over. And that's what we want to do, is get out of the way so the officers can take custody of this individual as soon as possible.
So, Dennis, this driver is 110 southbound. Will hit the 105. We saw the exit signs there. The person came from Lakewood, so if that person goes 105 eastbound, they could be heading right back towards the Lakewood area.
Correct, and maybe they're familiar with that area. I mean, they're not going to be able to get away with the chopper overhead, and obviously you may have more than one chopper overhead. I don't see any ground units close by, close proximity, but the air unit will be broadcasting the location. They'll keep updating the ground units. CHP has a tendency to accelerate and get right behind them, and we'll see if that happens. But the local jurisdictions oftentimes pull back just for public safety issues. So this person could eventually escape. But the air unit does keep vigilance over that and keep the ground units updated on the continuing location changes.
Well, you say they're not going to be able to get away, and most of the time, whoa, here we go. This is really getting dangerous here, weaving through traffic. Most of the time they're not able to get away, but we do see instances where they do get away, especially if they're just in tracking mode and they're able to pull into an underground parking lot or pull into something where it's not as easy for the helicopter to track them. We saw that for a second even during our own pursuit here.
Exactly. This happens. I've seen one go to a card club, parked the car, jumped out, went into the card club, but the foolish individual didn't recognize that video. They video everyone who enters the location, so that person they able to identify real quick.
Yeah, cameras everywhere, right?
Yeah, everywhere in casinos, everywhere for safety, etc. But in this case, I don't see the CHP or any other law enforcement agencies close by because of that excessive speed. 80+ miles an hour. They're pulling back the ground units. But again, we've got a chopper overhead, and they will continually broadcast, update the location of the individual.
Well, that is scary to see those speeds right there. And you just think of this as you watch this pursuit going up to 100 miles per hour here with this driver. You think about the other people there, those innocent people there on the freeway, on the roadways, just trying to go to their location or get home, and you certainly pray for their safety at this hour. So obviously, I'm thinking, Dennis, this driver knows that helicopter's overhead watching them.
Yes, and that is a deterrent. Hopefully the person will come to their senses and stop. But if they want to get out, and sometimes we see them get out on the freeway and jump the center barrier, the freeway divider, there's all kinds of situations that take place. The bottom line is, I would venture this person's been to jail in the past. This is not the first time offense, and they've already done time, so they don't want to go back, and this is an opportunity for them to try and elude apprehension by law enforcement. This is a hazard to everyone on that freeway in the surrounding community. Everyone is in danger because of this individual when they're driving.
So we've moved freeways again. We're now onto the 91 freeway after some moves. It's kind of surprising, Christine, that there isn't more traffic that we're seeing at this time. I mean, that's part of the newsworthy part, that there's less, not completely jammed freeways at 511. Even though I guess it is the summer and a lot of people are off, we're now in the Compton neighborhood of Southern California, and this person is really going fast, moving in between. There we just saw, look like maybe CHP about to get behind, getting ready to get into this. You wonder, and we see some of the potential front-end damage there, you wonder if they were trying to shut down that off-ramp there, but we'll see if they get more aggressive in pursuing this person.
So now we're going to have a CHP unit right behind, get as close as possible. We might try a pit maneuver, depending on the speed.
Whoa! Wow, blowing through that intersection there. Obviously, that driver did not have the green light, almost hitting several cars there in that intersection. Very scary now on these roadways.
Very dangerous. And we think of that horrible crash that we covered just a few weeks back with that person driving 100 miles an hour and not stopping, no skid marks, going through an intersection like that, and 6 people ended up dead. A lot of people look at these pursuits as entertainment. They enjoy it, like watching a reality show, but this is real-world stuff, and people driving through those intersections could be killed instantly by a very reckless driver who's being extraordinarily selfish and dangerous right in the middle of rush hour traffic right now.
and committed a felony. A robbery is a felony charge, so I would venture to say they've been arrested in the past.
Here we go. Now we got an actual pursuit.
Okay, right behind. I would venture to say they've been arrested in the past.
Here we go. Now we got an actual pursuit.
Okay, right behind.
So you wonder if I mean, they're going a little fast right now for a pit maneuver. Usually that would be around 35, 40 miles an hour. This guy's now approaching, if that thing is accurate, 70 miles an hour. That seems maybe not quite so accurate there.
Passing a school bus. That is really sad.
You wonder if they're going to try to pit maneuver this person to try to make this thing end, if they can do that on these side streets there. But this driver is making it difficult, Dennis. When a driver's going that fast, it would be dangerous and almost impossible to pit him. Look at this, 75 miles an hour on a side street.
Yeah. It's highly unusual to pit at that speed. The recommended speed is about 35, maybe 40. Speed at that kind of speed is really unsafe. Again, the officers are concerned about the public safety, and that's why oftentimes they terminate and just go for the air coverage. See what happens with that.
Whoa, here we go.
You know, Dennis,
here we go, wrong way, through another intersection.
As we're watching this, Dennis, we're seeing this driver become increasingly more dangerous as he's going through these intersections, passing school buses and driving at these speeds on surface streets. Oh, here we go. Is he going to make a pit? Let's take a look at this one here. These speeds are really high with other cars around them, too, Dennis.
Well, actually, the streets are pretty light with traffic if you really examine. They're really not that busy right now.
Well, that officer putting the pressure on that car right there, letting that vehicle know he is right behind him.
Yeah, we're a couple seconds behind you on the TV from the broadcast. So that is a CHP unit, and that's an LAPD unit. I think that's LAPD. Oh, sheriff. It's a sheriff's unit right behind, and there's a CHP unit to the left. So it's LA County Sheriff's. That's the primary.
Look at that on the curb. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Whoa.
Wow. And you wonder what kind of damage are they going to get out, or are they going to keep driving through that? You wonder, it looks already, Christine, like the car sustained some damage before during this pursuit.
Driver doesn't care.
Oh, whoa, the wheel just fell, the hubcap just fell off.
They're unpredictable, absolutely unpredictable behavior.
And dangerous, so dangerous.
That was wild.
You put public jeopardy in mind, public jeopardy. This is what this individual is doing. Hopefully they'll be able to block the driver now. Hopefully they could block the individual, but that's not going to work.
A reminder there, lock your doors, everyone, because you never know when this suspect tries to get out and bail and carjack another vehicle. Wow.
Okay.
This person is obviously intent to elude capture, and I would venture that they've been arrested in the past and have an extensive record to have this type of driving and this type of crime, a robbery, and then to flee in this manner. So they just compound the charges. So it wouldn't be surprising if they start plowing through these cars, better stop at the light or get out and try and carjack someone, which is a common activity that they do. So that's why I want to keep your windows up and the doors locked.
Good point, Dennis Zine. Thank you so much. We also want to bring into our coverage right now Stu Mundell, who, of course, covers our pursuits in the morning via Skyfox. Stu, we're looking at a wild pursuit right here. This all started with apparently a robbery of a sunglass hut in Lakewood. It's now been going for some time now. The driver lost his hubcap, may have damaged his car a little bit up on the road there, but now we're back on the freeway. What are you seeing as you look at this, Stu?
You know, I've been watching your amazing footage and listening to the great commentary, and right now it appears that the sheriff's department is behind them, behind that vehicle. And Dennis was right on the money when he was talking about the pursuit policies between the different agencies: LAPD, Sheriff's Department, California Highway Patrol. California Highway Patrol probably one of the most aggressive, and then the Sheriff's Department probably the least aggressive. So I was kind of shocked to even hear the idea that they might be even trying a pit maneuver, especially with those high speeds. He's back on the freeway there, as I can see. I'm watching this, probably the same footage that you guys are seeing right now. So he's back on the 91, but there's a lot of traffic out there, and many times when we cover these, I always think to myself, this could be the opportunity to kind of get them, to block them in, not on purpose, but, just in a traffic situation. But clearly, as soon as I start talking about that, there you go. The driver's getting off the freeway there. Yeah. Still in the, this is going to be Artesia Boulevard. We're still in the Compton area. So this is going to be Sheriff Land when he gets off the freeway. I've been watching it with you guys. Looks like
well, another hubcap
gone. He made the turn right there. Kind of, maybe you guys had a better picture of that. Alec, Christina, did you see something just fall off the car?
Yeah, that would look like another one of the hubcaps is gone.
Okay. Okay, so it was just a hubcap. I was wondering if maybe that was an actual tire. You know, just making a big old U-turn right there, on again, off again, getting back on the freeway, the 91 the other way. Now, the Sheriff's Department, they seem to really like to use that helicopter and go into that tracking mode, and a lot of times that does make that big difference. The driver kind of slows down. He's not looking in the rearview mirror. He doesn't see those reds and blues flashing. He doesn't hear that noise. But in this case, it does appear that this guy, this person behind the wheel, really not slowing down, even when there is nobody behind him. Because when I started watching this earlier on, there was no engagement on the ground. The California Highway Patrol wasn't there, and that vehicle did not slow down. The driving didn't get any better. He actually went through that stoplight right there.
Well, we're looking at these.
In this case, this driver, you know, is basically just running amok on the roadways, endangering himself, endangering others, and these wild lane changes. You know, that's not a Porsche, that's not a BMW, that's a small compact vehicle. And when you start whipping it around like that with those little tires, you know, my picture's a little choppy. I'm watching on an iPad, but yeah, I'm telling you, when he just made all those maneuvers right there, I was getting a little bit worried. You know, just watching, because you just don't want to see him lose control and slide into some innocent person. There you go. We're getting back off the freeway there. This is going to give the officers and on the ground that opportunity to re-engage. Just because we don't see him there, we've seen enough of it. You know, Alec and Christina, we've seen enough where, you know, just because we don't see them right behind, as soon as that vehicle comes to a stop, and you'll see these other officers just kind of appear and just kind of crowd that suspect and get him into custody. Back on another really crowded street, high speeds, these crazy maneuvers. That vehicle clearly has been damaged already. This is just, it is just this recipe for disaster. And again, hopefully watching with everybody else right now, we just hope that this thing comes to an end. Maybe the car gives up, and then, you know, that suspect will get out with hands up. But right now, opening it up, look at this, 70, almost 80 miles an hour on surface streets. This is just so dangerous. It's just so dangerous indeed.
Stu, the wording we used was just perfect. Recipe for disaster. You're so right there with those speeds. Look at that there on surface streets, driving so dangerously. This driver has no care for any other motorists there on the road. Dennis Zine, if you're still with us, I want to bring you back into the conversation and talk about what we're seeing. This driver here went great lengths, but staying in the Compton area.
Whoa.
Wrong way now. Wrong way.
I don't want to cut off Dennis at all. I have huge respect, but, you know, every time he does a maneuver like that, every time he drives off the road, hits a curb, something like that, that's that opportunity for that flat tire. That's that opportunity for, you know, scraping the bottom, you know, getting a hole in the coolant system, an oil leak, something that will, you know, bring that car to an end. There you go, the sheriff's helicopter above it. And we did see one black and white there. And like I said, they are in the area. When it was on the 110 freeway, I'm home. I actually saw, you know, cars getting kind of in position, and that's what's going on. But right now, just crazy high speeds and then running those intersections. And this is the thing, folks on the road, you're not expecting this. You're not expecting, you look out the window, you see a car coming, you're not in your mind going, oh, that guy's going 80. I can, you know, I can go ahead and pull out in the traffic. You're thinking everybody's driving the safe, sane speeds, and then this person is doubling, tripling.
Here we go.
You know what the normal speeds are. This is what makes these so dangerous. This is why people get hurt. And again, this person, he stole sunglasses. I don't know if you guys know. Was there a weapon involved? I mean, is this really worth sunglasses? And maybe there's something more to this, because I find it hard to believe that all these law enforcement agencies would put this kind of effort behind this guy, knowing that he just took a pair of shades or a couple of pairs.
Dennis was saying that perhaps this guy is familiar with the law. So, Dennis, you might want to weigh in on that perspective. And also, as I was starting to say, that we are staying here in the Compton area. We've talked about suspects often going to an area that is familiar to them. This driver's gotten on the freeway, then off, back on and off.
Whoa.
Finding a way to stay in the Compton area.
We find this bizarre behavior, and Stu has seen many, many times from the air, and what these folks do when they're in pursuits. And this wouldn't be just stealing sunglasses. There has to be more to it. There probably had to be a robbery, some significance. They wouldn't be going through this effort for stealing a pair of sunglasses. no matter how much the sunglasses cost. So it has to be something more, a robbery with a gun or something to that effect. But what we find is bizarre driving, very hazardous, and this situation is going to continue until the individual either gets, they're not going to surrender, they're not going to stop. They're either going to get in a crash or the car is going to become
missed
disabled.
Another one there.
One of the two. Either the car gets disabled or come to a crash. They're not going to surrender. They may be familiar with the Compton area and try and find a place to escape. But as we see, law enforcement is not giving up. But Stu was right when it comes to this bizarre driving that we see. But people aren't going to be doing this if they've committed a theft of a sunglass, and law enforcement's not going to do this type of driving. They'd let the person go and get a license plate and do a warrant or whatever the case may be. But this has to be more than just a sunglass theft at the sunglass store. And I know they're expensive, but it's not worth people's lives and this hazard that we see going on in the county of Los Angeles at this time.
Well, we have seen at least 3 or 4 very close calls as this driver has been completely reckless, driving through intersections, not minding red lights, just moving through. And we have had very close calls where crashes could have been catastrophic. This is a reminder for all of us who drive, and I certainly make this mistake sometimes, that maybe looking down at your phone for a second, or maybe distracted in the car, looking over at somebody, and not totally, completely, 100% focused. But there were a couple drivers a few moments ago, Christine, that barely missed crashing into them, and because they were alert, were able to slam on the brakes and barely miss that car. And you're looking at some footage from earlier on the right-hand side of your screen. The top left is the live picture on your screen, looking at some of these other earlier dangerous maneuvers, and you see how desperate this person has been, and they continue to drive real quickly on side streets now in Compton, Christine.
And I know we are still in Compton. So, Dennis, we talked about this driver staying in a familiar area, perhaps, yet no signs that this driver is looking to bail out, to pull over, to stop at a neighborhood.
No, not yet.
You wonder how much longer, though, Dennis, this car is going to be able to go. We've already seen damage on, it looks like, the left side of the vehicle. We know that 2 hubcaps at least have flown off. And you, as you mentioned, with no offense to our friends at Hyundai, you know, we're not looking at a Porsche here. You know, this car isn't necessarily built for these kinds of maneuvers.
No, it's not. They give a 10-year warranty, but not for this.
They are economical. They're powerful. They get the job done clearly. But, you know, the constant hammering of the gas pedal, the constant hard on the brakes, you know, at night sometimes we've seen them where actually the brakes will start glowing because of the heat and the constant abuse. And with that car, you know, in this case, we're actually hoping and rooting for that car to fail. You know, you want to see something. You want to see that it start overheating, or you want to see him like hit a curb and get a flat tire, or something break that will bring this to an end safely. You don't want to see this thing crash clearly. And you know, we always talk about how much gas they have. We covered many of them where they just kind of run out of gas. But we are on Artesia. My monitor is a little, I'm on my iPad, so it's digitized, but I can see that we're on Artesia. That vehicle going 70, almost 80 miles an hour on surface streets out there today. And these folks, like you said earlier on, I heard somebody say, they just want to get home. You're just driving. You're just going to pick up your kids or whatever the reason is. You know, you are not expecting somebody to come whizzing by or cutting you off or running a red light at 80 miles an hour. And, you know, that is the only reason when I see the law enforcement, the black and whites, the cruisers behind these vehicles. You know, yeah, it might be, you know, I'm doing the air quotes, agitating that driver, but it's also warning the public. At least people on the roads have got that heads up that, hey, something might be going on. I need to put my head on a swivel. I can hear these sirens. Where are they coming from? And that is the big positive. But right now you see this person clearly with nobody behind them, no law enforcement that we're seeing behind that vehicle. I wish John would get a little bit of a wider shot there. But it doesn't seem that there seem to be anybody down there. So this person is driving this recklessly, knowing that basically there is nobody pursuing them, as in on the ground behind them. The driving hasn't gotten any better. And this is what I always say. I am glad I'm not making those decisions. I couldn't sleep with myself at night making a decision saying, oh, pull off or stay on, and then have an outcome that's horrific. Right now, getting back on the freeway, that's a little bit of a relief. At least these drivers are all going the same direction. There aren't going to be any intersections, and hopefully, and driving in the emergency lanes and doing these things, hopefully he's going to pick up a nail or he's going to pick up a screw or something is going to damage one of those tires. This thing is going to slowly come to an end, but you can clearly see damage on that car. This driver is desperate to get away, not slowing down, and continually getting these super close calls. And every time, it's luck. It's just luck. You can say that driver's skilled. I'm not buying it. It is luck. Every time he's not getting into an accident, it is just luck. And eventually, we don't want to see that luck run out.
I agree. I mean, every time there's a near miss, you're thinking, thank God that driver is going to get home safely tonight. The vehicle here again, back on the freeway after dropping down into the North Long Beach area, back on the freeway here. I agree with you. You wish that the driver would hit a nail or something and get a flat tire. Something would bring this to an end, because he's not really going in an area that is familiar enough that law enforcement can put a spike strip necessarily, because it's hard to predict where that driver's going to go.
Well, I would venture to say
we've heard of thousands of times where, and you and I both, and probably all of us, all four of us, have been in these situations where we talk to public about these things. It's like somebody's always asking me something, but it's like, well, why don't they just put the spike strip out? It's not that easy. It's not every vehicle has a spike strip. And then also, like you said, Christine, you got to get ahead of it. How are you going to get ahead of that car with those spike strips and be able to toss it out safely? That's the other side of it, too. Yeah. We've seen it in the past. We've talked about it getting off on another off-ramp here, but still now we're in North Long Beach, so still very close to the Compton area, and clearly it's got to be someplace that this person knows. But back to the spike strips, they've got to do it safely. You don't want any other vehicles getting involved in this, and we know that it isn't going to be a blowout.
Here we go.
This is something different. This is the first time I've seen him go through a shopping center or anything other than a roadway, which makes me think that maybe we've seen this in the past where they just stop and they run into a store. But in this case, it looks like he's just cutting through there. But again, those spike strips aren't going to blow a tire, but you just don't want to have those issues. You don't want to put the officers at risk, and you don't want to put the public at risk. So that's one of the reasons why they can't just throw out that spike strip in front of them. But again, we're back on these surface streets. These speeds are continuing. At least they're staying slower, as it would be, and it looks like maybe he's just trying to make his way back onto the 91. Boy, he really likes that 91 freeway down there in North Long Beach in the Compton area.
All right, so if you're just joining us, the time is now 5:30. Welcome to the Fox 11 News at 5:30. I'm Alex Michelson with Christine Devine. Also with us is Stu Mundell and a former LAPD officer and former LA City Council member Dennis Zine. We are watching a pursuit in the North Long Beach area. We'll see if we may have lost this vehicle again under the pass there. This is somebody who was originally wanted in Lakewood for robbery of a sunglass hunt, maybe we've lost this person. The biggest challenge right now. Okay, so somebody's walking. We don't know if those are those people.
John's in the helicopter today, and I see him zooming in, but there's people running around down there. And again, my monitor digitized, but you can clearly see that there's somebody down there. Looks like they're trying to get somebody, get somebody's attention, or maybe they saw what's happening. But is this one of those rope-a-dopes where he pulled up, or maybe he got a hold of somebody and they were waiting underneath that overpass? We've seen that in the past too.
Yeah.
Again, now would be the time for those cruisers to just magically appear and to make their way over there, or at least to that intersection, at least stop that person of interest right there, or that other person of interest, and see maybe is the car parked underneath the overpass. But right now, I don't have access to the scanner, so I can't even really hear what the conversation is with law enforcement. But clearly, the camera person today in Skyfox really keeping an eye on that one male that just basically walked out from that underpass. So there you go. You got
there we see some cruisers that are moving away.
So hopefully the sheriff's helicopter's up there, and hopefully there is communication between the ground units. And again, this person walking away, definitely suspicious. Is it the suspect? Your guess is really as good as mine.
Yeah, well, and Dennis, that's part of the challenge. We were talking about this a little earlier, that because of the policies that we as a society have adopted to allow our overpasses to essentially become home to homeless encampments that are not really well patrolled, there are a lot of people that live under there, and there's a lot of places you could hide under there, and there's a lot of people that could pop out. And it's hard to figure out what's going on. It's not like it's just a clean area where somebody would stand out.
That's correct. Well, what we find is individuals walking away. The ground unit should be close by.
They are. They're there. They just pulled up, Dennis.
Okay, there we go. There we go. Okay, because they pulled back just because of the excessive speed and the hazard. They don't want an innocent person to get involved, injured, a car collision. But this individual is now somewhere in that vicinity, maybe in that house. There were two people, and hopefully they'll get to one of them and find the other one. But now they're going to converge on that residence and find out if that's the individual. They'll be able to connect this fingerprints of the individual, fingerprints in the car, etc. If this is in fact the individual who is driving that car, they'll be able to connect them together. I don't know if anyone has a photo of the individual at the time, or if the air unit was able to get that, but there's ways to link this person to that car, and they will utilize that to make sure it's the right person they take into custody.
Let's paint a picture here for our viewers. It looks like you have officers there with their guns drawn, pointing in a certain direction. Perhaps they have insight on the ground to tell if the person they're looking for is in those bushes there behind that shed or whatever that is there. But obviously now our concern is for officer safety or safety of the residents, people who live in that home there. There's been no sign of anybody home, or perhaps they're indoors. But right now, a concern as we watch this is officer safety and what can they see or not see if somebody's in those bushes.
Well, that's true, and they have to be very cautious. If the individual does have a weapon, can start shooting at the officers and deputies, so they have to be extremely cautious approach. And hopefully the air unit, with the devices the air unit has, they'll be able to determine if there's someone in those bushes. They have a device that they can sense heat, so there's an opportunity for them to determine if there's in fact someone in that area.
So we're getting...
But you're talking about great exposure to the officers. They have no protection. Hopefully they have the ballistic test, and that's it. And they're out there, the two of them. If this person has a weapon, those officers are, they're prone to get...
Well, we've seen, Dennis, in the past, sometimes officers will wait out people. Okay, here they come.
Suspect. Coming out, hands up. Yep,
yeah.
Suspect, or that person of interest, at least we should say, has their hands up. I mean, why that person would walk and go behind a shed is kind of bizarre behavior. Looks like they might still have a phone to their ear.
And there also was a woman, too, that we saw. Whoa, okay. Well, they're certainly interested.
Certainly suspect down there. You know, if this is a suspect, hopefully, you know, those. If you haven't said it already, you know, those sunglasses. His future is not that bright. He's not going to be needing those shades. But you know, those deputies, when they get there, I heard Dennis, and Dennis knows this probably way better than any of us as being, you know, quarterback, armchair quarterbacks. But you know, where's your partner? Where's your backup? And then make the approach. And then I can, you know, we've been in these so many times, I could hear that conversation between the sheriff's helicopter, whichever one that is up there, and then any of the news media. There's going to be this crosstalk going back and forth. Where did you see him last? What do you got? Where's he at? You know, do you have eyes on him? And clearly somebody did. And now this suspect definitely going into custody. Those deputies on the ground. You know, and Dennis said it, you know, they are getting out of that vehicle, walking into danger. You don't know what this guy's got. You know, you don't know what that situation is, and they are walking into that danger and taking that suspect into custody. And I would venture to say that that car is probably still underneath that overpass.
Well, let us hope that is indeed the suspect, the person who was driving that car, who led police on that very dangerous pursuit on surface streets and freeways, and then also is the one responsible for that Sunglass Hut robbery. And this comes to an end. And
there was also a woman, though, that was walking with that suspect. And I wonder what her deal is, if they've located her, what her connection. It certainly seemed like the two of them knew each other.
They were connecting somehow.
We also don't, because we never got a good look, and there were really tinted windows on that vehicle, which may have been a Nissan, may have been a Hyundai. I think it was probably a Nissan.
Well, they're going to check. The officers are going to, deputies are going to check with the store to find out the description of the suspect. So they will be able to put it together that way. And if the store has a camera, video camera, they'll be able to link it that way with the individual they have in custody. So they'll be able to lock this case up, and hopefully justice will prevail in the court system.
Because at least from the chopper, we couldn't get a sense of whether there was more than one person in that car, which is most likely now under that overpass. Well, I guess this is the end of this one.
Let us just be thankful nobody got hurt. No innocent vehicle or person or driver was in a crash with this suspect. Okay, there's the other person right there. That's the suspect right there? Okay, that looks like our initial suspect.
Well, they'll take the other person into custody to sort out what the situation is, but fortunately they have enough deputies down there now to sort this out. I don't see any highway patrol officers, but I do see a lot of sheriff's deputies.
All right.
So there'll be a lot of paperwork to follow this, but good job, and no innocent people were injured. And thanks for Stu for his bird's eye view from the ground for once, because he's always up in the chopper broadcasting.
That's right. And like you said, a lot of paperwork. That's why I'm sure, we all know enough law enforcement friends that you always hear that. You just don't want to have to do the paper on it. That's it.
That's right.
Let somebody else put the cuffs on them.
Right. There you have a woman being taken into custody. We believe now it appears to be 2 people were in that car leading police on that pursuit. Dennis Zine, we say thank you for your perspective at the start of the pursuit. Stu Mundell, we thank you for jumping in here with our coverage. Again, glad to say nobody hurt after a very lengthy pursuit, more than a half-hour, very, very dangerous pursuit. Looks like all ends well with suspects in custody.
Stu knows those famous words, Code 4, suspect in custody.
All right.
Famous words.
Thank you both, gentlemen. Until the next time we do this. From now, though, we move on to other breaking news.
Breaking news out of Sacramento. Governor Gavin Newsom has rejected a proposal to create legal drug injection sites in 3 of California's biggest cities. That plan would have allowed opioid users in Los Angeles, Oakland, and San Francisco to legally inject drugs under supervision. Proponents say it would be safer for users in case of overdose because there would be trained staff on hand. Opponents say it would have condoned the use of dangerous drugs. Governor Newsom releasing a statement saying, I've long supported the cutting edge of harm reduction strategies. However, I'm acutely concerned about the operations of safe injection sites without strong, engaged local leadership and well-documented, vetted, and thoughtful operational and sustainability plans.
Interesting, he's getting praise from Republicans for this move, and some of the most progressive Democrats are giving him a hard time about that move. All right, well, we're about 40 minutes into our show. How about we take a commercial break? Somebody's got to pay Stu's salary.
I think we do.
All right, we'll be right back.
Real-time closed captioning for 800,000 deaf and hard of hearing Southern Californians. Made possible